Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with the patch 5.1a rundown. Finally back to doing patch notes because now we can, now we actually have the time to do it. And this one is going to be a really big patch. It's a patch, but it is huge. So let's jump straight into it without any time wasted. So first up, we have a new champion, Viego, releasing on the 8th of May. So about 2 weeks later. Pretty anticipated champion, probably the most anticipated champion. Viego is really popular, of course, because he can take the form of other champions. So he will be finally releasing on 8th of May, but probably expect a lot of bugs because he is probably the buggiest champion in League of Legends like history. And then we have a new game mode, Final Stand, which is the PvE game mode available at the end of the month. This one's pretty exciting, of course, because PvE, I don't think we ever had a PvE game mode on Wild Rift, so this is probably the first one, and it's also a very storyline focused. We have a number of events, so we have the Ink Splendor, I believe maybe it's related to Calligraphia on April 28th, and we also have a chance to get Jade Dragon, Wukong, and Dragon Fist Lee Sin Special Edition together with the Calligraphia, so probably Calligraphia is going to be gacha together with these two skins. And then we of course have some the gifts event starting from April 28th as well, and Viego has an event on his release. So into the champion changes, a lot of them. So first up, Ashe is getting a nerf because apparently the new items have made her really strong. Now I don't know because personally I haven't played Ashe at all since patch 5.1. I haven't played her since before that. So I don't really know if she really is strong, but they are dropping her attack speed by 5% on her Q, as well as the attack damage ratio by 5%. So losing 5% attack speed and 5% attack damage it is a notable change, but it's not the end of the world. It's not a huge buff, a huge nerf, but it's not like a negligible nerf either. So it's just a decent sized nerf. I'm gonna say we have to see how this affects Ashe, but personally I wouldn't know because I didn't play Ashe before this. I didn't play Ashe much before this patch anyways. Echo is getting a buff. His damage to monsters is increasing, which is going to increase his jungle clear. And his Q damage is actually going up in terms of base damage at all ranks, as well as the return damage is also going up at all ranks. The ratios are remaining the same. And his health regen on his R is going up by 50 at all ranks, but again AP ratio remains the same. This is a pretty sizable buff for Echo because you're gonna get a faster jungle clear because of both of the buffs, and also your Q damage of course is the one you max first, and it is your bread and butter ability. So this is gonna help both lane Echo and jungle Echo. Is just overall just a pretty sweet buff for Echo. Echo should be quite a bit stronger now. Now Kindred of course has been really strong, so they are giving her a nerf. Her base AD is going down by 4, as well as her AD per level going down by 1. So overall that's quite a big loss in AD when you reach the max level. Also her Q attack speed increase is getting reduced from 35% to 20% plus 3% per mark. So that is a really huge buff. Like, just think about it. 35% to 20% is huge, and of course 5% to 3% is also huge. So huge nerf to Kindred's Q. And the Lamb's Respite healing is also getting a huge hit. Now first off, the ally healing is going down by like 50 at base rank and 100 at max rank. Now this one in my opinion doesn't really matter too much. In fact, it probably helps Kindred more than it harms her, because this kind of applies to everybody, as in enemies and allies inside the Lamb's Respite. So by giving them less health, it actually makes it easier for Kindred to execute them with her E. So this is technically a buff to Kindred. It's not actually a nerf. But the nerf comes in over here. The self-heal is going from 100, 125, and 150 to 50 at all ranks. That's a 3 times healing reduction at max rank and a 2 times healing reduction at base rank. Now that basically means that Kindred is barely going to heal anything, because she already didn't really even heal that much. Like 150 health is not really even that much. It is not negligible, of course. It is a decent amount, but it's not a huge amount. So overall, just a huge nerf to Kindred in terms of her ulti, as well as her attack speed on her Q. And probably she's gonna be taken down a notch. Maybe not top tier jungle anymore, but probably still somewhere up there. So next up we have Lilia. Lilia, of course, has been really, really weak. I have basically not seen Lilia being played at all for the past couple of months. So what are they giving her? Her Q movement speed is going up slightly, so a little bit more mobile. Her damage is going up both in terms of base as well as in terms of AP. Of course, this is her bread and butter ability, so giving a buff to damage on this, a pretty sizable buff at that, is going to help her quite a bit. And the outer edge true damage is also getting the same treatment as the damage itself. So overall, a huge damage buff to her Q, and next up her W also getting a damage buff, but only in terms of the base numbers. Here the AP numbers are not changing, so the base numbers are all going up by just a little bit. So overall, Lilia essentially is just getting a little bit more damage. I still don't think this will make her popular in the jungle, but definitely it's a really good buff for her. Now Nunu also getting a buff. The attack speed you get from the passive is going from 30% to 40%, and movement speed 10% to 15%. Now this attack speed is also going to help your ally, so this is going to help out, like, you know, if you have an ADC near your team, or like Tryndamere, Yasuo, that kind of champion, is going to help them quite a bit as well. The consume damage is actually going up. It's actually not going up at base, but it is going up in terms of bonus health, so it is going to scale off of your bonus health by an extra 2%. So this is of course going to benefit if you build tanky. This is pretty minor buff, but this one's a little bit bigger, especially for your allies. So overall, just kind of a minor buff overall to Nunu. Olaf hasn't really been played all that much, to be honest. His attack speed on passive is going from 60 to 100 to 70 to 110, so 10% extra attack speed, nothing to scoff at. Physical vamp also going up from 10 to 25 up to 15 to 30, again another 5% physical vamp, also nothing to scoff at. Combined with the attack speed, really good. W shielding, base amount is the same, but missing health percentage going up by 2%. Also a nice small buff, but not huge. And the armor and magic resist you get when you cast your ultimate is actually going up by a really sizable amount, from 10 to 25 and from 30 to 45. So overall, combined, Olaf is getting quite a number of buffs, so should be, you know, quite a little bit stronger. Now Samira, I knew she was going to get nerfed sooner or later because she is really, really strong. I've actually gone to like a 10 win streak on Samira in ranked, and it's pretty bonkers. I've been spamming Samira a lot, kind of my most played champion currently, although I haven't really made a video on it yet. But base AD is going down by 2, and the Q damage is actually going down in terms of base rank by like 5 at every rank, and the scaling is also going down by 5%. So again, kind of similar to a lot of the changes we've seen in this patch, where the damage goes down just by a little bit and the ratio goes down just by a little bit as well, but overall combined these two are gonna hit the ability, you know, quite a little bit. And her ulti damage is going down by like 5 at second rank and 10 at third rank, and the AD ratio is going down by 10%. So ulti is gonna do less damage overall. Honestly, I still think Samira is gonna be strong. It's just she's just gonna be a little bit weaker than what she is at the moment. Now Twitch, I have no idea why they're nerfing Twitch, because Twitch is not very strong. I think he's one of the worst ADCs in the game at the moment. I think, like, you know, like he is in contention for the worst ADC with like probably Misfortune. But yeah, so apparently he is really strong in the mid to late game, and his snowballs out of control, which I guess could happen if you really get fed in the early game, but that never happens. Like, it rarely ever happens. So his armor per level going down by 0.5, and his magic growth per level is also going down by 0.5. Now I've said in like literally every Twitch video that I've made that I think Twitch is like the squishiest ADC out of them all, and this is not gonna help his case at all. Like, he is already so squishy, and they're making him even more squishy. He's just gonna get one shot instantly by anybody who touches him. And his E damage is going down by 5 at all ranks, and damage per stack is also going down by 5. And the bonus AD scaling is going down by 3%, and AP scaling by 2%. So overall, his E damage is just weaker. And his ulti, the subsequent targets, is gonna take 15% less damage instead of 10% less damage. But the damage reduction limit is going down from 60 to 40, so they're not gonna get more than 40% damage reduction, which I guess is a buff, but overall it's kind of a huge nerf to Twitch. Killing his main form of damage and his resistances when that was already his like weakest area. So next, Yasuo getting a slight buff to health regen, his Q getting a slight buff in terms of the base numbers, 5, again the magic number for this patch, and his ulti is getting a slight AD ratio buff by 10%. I don't know what to say about Yasuo. I don't really think he's that like weak, but he's not like, you know, the best either. I think he's actually pretty strong, but the buffs are really minor. Like the extra 5 damage on Q, it does matter. You do use Q like every second, and the last breath damage also matters, of course, because it's its ulti. But overall, it's quite small buffs. Now Zoe, I think, is one of the best mid laners at the moment, because she can basically build all the OP mage items. Like she can go from Ludens into Infinity Orb into like Death Cap and like Horizon Focus. All of the OP mage items are all there. So the Q damage is getting lowered by a little bit. The least possible damage is getting lowered. So it overall basically is kind of means it's a nerf, like, you know. And the highest possible damage is also getting nerfed by like 50 at the maximum, because obviously this scales with distance, so it's really difficult to kind of explain like how big the change is, because the damage has a really large range based on minimum distance or maximum distance of the Q that has traveled, right? So basically, essentially all you need to know is really the damage is getting reduced. So the bubble is getting similar treatment. The base damage is getting reduced, and the true damage from the bubble as well also getting reduced, but the AP ratios remain the same, and the cooldown on your ulti is actually going up at earlier ranks, but at max rank it remains the same. So ARAM changes, not really going to cover them, but I'm just going to quickly scroll through. So if you guys want to see, you know, either check out the patch notes yourself or pause the video. Now, huge number of item changes. So first up, Force of Nature is getting a huge buff, which I think is really needed because of how OP mages are. So first up, the price is getting dropped by 10. Magic resist going up by 5, but this is a huge one. When you max stack it, you're going to get 10% movement speed and reduce incoming magic damage by 25%. But now instead of taking 6 stacks, it's only going to take 4 stacks. So this basically means you can stack faster by like 2 seconds. Not 2 seconds, but 2 instances of magic damage taken, which is pretty huge, because getting the extra magic resist is, you know, it's amazing, obviously. So Force of Nature is, I mean, it already is, but it's going to be the core item you get against magic damage, right? So it already is, but most people like to go for other items like Twin Guard instead, which is still going to be a probably better option, considering there's probably going to be AD in the game. But Force of Nature being a strong item is really important, just for there to be some counterplay against mages. So now, Ruined Blade of the Broom King, Infinity Edge, and Death Cap are all getting the same kind of treatment, where the health reduction is getting changed from 10 to 100 down to 5 to 80, because the health impact has been, you know, just a little bit too much. Yeah, so that's a I guess it depends on how you see it, but that's generally a good thing, I believe, because losing less health is always good if you're a carry. However, Infinity Edge crit strikes are going down by 5%, and the mage ability power is going down by 5% as well, because they've been a little bit too strong. Now I think that it is still gonna, these items are still gonna be good, still gonna be core considering the one-shot meta we are in now, but definitely a huge hit to ADCs and mages. Thornmail is getting again quite a huge buff. So first up, the health is getting doubled from 100 to 200. Now this I think is the biggest part of the buff. Like, one of the reasons why Thornmail was good but bad is because it gave anti-heal, but it gave you so little health. So now giving 200 health is actually really huge, because this makes Thornmail an actually good item now to complete earlier. And when you get the passive on Thornmail, you are going to deal an extra, from 1% you're going to deal an extra 2% bonus health as magic damage. So again, just more damage reflection when you build more health, which should be the case when you're playing tanks. So now, this is, I think, probably one of the most interesting changes of the patch. Terminus is introducing an upper limit for armor and magic penetration to 40%. Now you might be thinking why, right? Because when you're building like Terminus, they don't allow you to build Black Cleaver, and they don't allow you to build Wall Reminder anyway, right? So yeah, how does this limit matter? And Terminus only gives you 33% maximum. So how does this actually matter? Well, this matters for AP users, because AP users, remember, they get 7% magic penetration from all of their items, right? So there are some AP users that can actually build Terminus. So for example, you could build Terminus on Varus, AP Varus, right? So for example, you could go for Nashor's Tooth, You could go for Terminus. Let's say you go for Rift Maker. That's going to give you 7% Magic Pen, which is going to put you to 40%. Then you build like a Death Cap. It's going to give you another 7%. So that puts you to 47%. And then let's say you build an Infinity Orb. That's going to give you another 7%, which is going to put you to 54%. And you slowly start to realize how OP Terminus is on magic damage users. Now, it is true, most magic damage users cannot really use Terminus because it's not worth it, because you get like AD, you get attack speed. Like, those are not stats you really want. But there are a very, very small niche of champions like Varus, like Kale, like these kind of AP champions that also benefit from AD and attack speed that can use Terminus, and on those champs it is just insane. I haven't really done a AP Varus video on Terminus yet, but I will probably do it eventually, but it's gonna be weaker than what it is now for sure. But this is a very interesting change. So next up we have Light Yomu's Ghostblade. Is flat out just a nerf, going from 5 to 10 extra lethality to 3 to 6 lethality at 100 stacks, so because it is just way too strong basically. So now we got rune changes as well. I told you guys this was a huge patch. Like, we've got item changes, rune changes, champion changes, etc. So first up, First Strike is getting a damage reduction from 9% true damage to 7% true damage. Now, I'm not surprised by this, but I'm surprised at the timing of this. Now, the moment First Strike released like months ago, I always felt that First Strike did way too much damage, but they have never nerfed it, right? So it led me to eventually believe that they must have found that the damage on First Strike is, acceptable, right? If not, they would have nerfed it months ago. So I guess you could say now I'm partially surprised that out of the blue they're nerfing First Strike, because although I thought it would be nerfed all along, I didn't see it like coming because I thought that they wouldn't want to nerf it anymore. So I think it's probably because like now in the meta, one-shotting like with mages or what, it's just too ridiculous. So First Strike is one of those runes you take if you want to one-shot people. So I guess that's kind of the main reason why they're nerfing it now and not previously. And they're buffing PTA/empowerment, which is pretty huge buff. So firstly, when your target is vulnerable, the true damage you're doing is going to increase, and secondly, the cooldown, which I think this is probably the biggest buff. The cooldown is, instead of 6 seconds, is going to be 4 seconds. So you can proc empowerment every 4 seconds. I already think empowerment is a pretty, I wouldn't say strong, but it's a pretty solid rune for the niche cases where it's good. So it's definitely going to make it better. So another small gameplay change which has not affected me whatsoever is the Ixtal Scorpion can only be summoned when you haven't taken damage within the last 2 seconds. There's probably instances where 2 people are just fighting over the Scorpion and just standing on top of it and like fighting over it, things like that, in the Baron lane. So skins will be releasing the Calligraphia skin line, the special editions of course, for the 2 skins here, and Arcade with Hecarim, and Arcade with Viego's release. And here, very interestingly, we have Supreme Cell's Akali releasing as well. So what happened to Supreme Cell's Darius and Samira, which is supposed to be released like many patches ago? I don't know. I wasn't planning to buy on those skins, but anyway, but I'm sure some people will be upset about that. So anyways, that is it for the rundown. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.